This time we'll reconvene our meeting in public session. We just finished an executive session to discuss collective bargaining. And as usual at our school committee meetings, our first order of business is public input. So if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on any items tonight not on the agenda, please make yourself known now. Okay, thank you. Before we move to our second order of business, I just wanted to mention that this afternoon at the Boston Marathon Tribute in Boston, we had one of North Reading's own 2011 graduate of the high school, Andy Ty, was featured at the tribute. He was one of the singers. He sang a song from the Disney movie Hercules, and he was outstanding. It was broadcast live on all of the Boston television stations. And also another graduate of North Reading High School in 2011, Lauren Zacular, last weekend was the lead star performer in the musical Carousel that Emerson College does an annual musical every year. And Lauren Zacular was the lead in that performance. So a couple of really talented students coming out of North Reading, and I just wanted to mention those two tonight. So now let's move to, we have Zach Mullen-Bernstein, and he's going to give our student report. Zach? Oh, that's right. I should mention, Zach is a graduate of the little school, and he's now a junior at the high school.
So last Tuesday, junior team students heard from Natalie Yemka, a motivation speaker at the high school, whose presentation focused on relationships. Last Friday was the junior prom country club. The night went off without a hitch, but due to the rain, we very lucky to have kids inside. The court included Gregory Landry, John Bowler, Sean McReal, myself, Eric Revelisi, Alexis Siciliano, Marissa Harper, and Dr. Mile, Queen is Alec Orlando, and Queen is Greg Metropolis, and each one of the congratulate those students. This Friday is a half day, and next week is beginning break. For sports, boys tennis won their first match last Tuesday against Boston Latin, and girls tennis beat off for Tuesday. Boys track, Boston Hamilton won them, all the girls track won, winning themselves the record for 4-0. Boys lacrosse won the game against August 17-0. Baseball beat Kentucky on Saturday 1-0. Softball won their last game 11-3. Girls lacrosse beat Georgetown 9-4. The NEMAS, or the Northeastern Massachusetts Association of Student Council, will hold their spring conference at Boston this Thursday, and all the student council members from high school will attend. HR Heelan's our junior at the high school, running for regional president and commissioner level. Yesterday, the FELA Club for Future Business Leaders of America traveled with 32 students at Bethel University for their Massachusetts Leadership Conference, and the conference included guest speakers and various business workshops. I attended the conference and I was going to talk about that for my student work. So beforehand, we had to take various tests and subjects such as management, accounting, entrepreneurship, or marketing, and then our scores on these tests were judged against those of the other Massachusetts clubs. I myself took the entrepreneurship test and management along with juniors Nicholas Phillips and Jake O'Connell. These tests included questions that varied from laws about different regulations and aspects of business to different scenarios in the workplace. And to prepare, the club had meetings where we focused on various topics. We finished in third place for entrepreneurship and first out of 9 schools in management. Juniors Daniel Coveney and senior Christopher Chi also placed in the top 3. And these students are invited to the FBLA National Conference this summer in Nashville, Tennessee, although there is a fee included with that. I just wanted to thank the school committee as this was the first year club, and because of it I was able to attend this event and have a great experience. Great. And for my work I just brought a certificate.
So are you invited for?
Yes, there is a fee. You have to pay for your own flight and hotel, but you are invited to compete down there.
Any questions for Zach? This is great. We could probably use you on the school committee.
Nice
or within the administration, one of the two. Usual, flawless, very well trained, Mrs. Mullen.
I can take the credit. I wasn't the principal, but I was a teacher, yeah.
Thanks, Zach.
Credit goes to you, Mom.
Okay, so next we're going to shift the agenda around and we will call up Little School Principal Chris Molly to lead the Little School presentation tonight. Chris?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. Always a pleasure to have the school committee here with us. We are not going to be utilizing the table this evening because we have sort of a different setup. So we would like to ask the school committee to take a seat in the front row. The children will be performing on the stage. And Phil, I think you're okay with that, right? So we're going to start out the presentation with a typical, the same way we start out a typical day at the little school. Every day, we have a different fifth grader do morning announcements, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Star Spangled Banner. And so I would like to present to you one of our graduating fifth graders, Rachel Schladenhoffen, who will be leading us in our morning announcements. But tonight will be the welcome announcements. So.
May I have your attention, please? Welcome to the Little School. This is Rachel Schladenhoffen, your news reporter from the WEE Little School. Today is Tuesday, April 15th, the 136th day of school. The temperature outside of the Little School is 60 degrees. Today's weather will be rainy and windy with a high temperature of 66 degrees and a low temperature of 58 degrees. The chance of precipitation will be 100%. Due to weather, there will be indoor recess. Today is the one-year anniversary of the tragic Boston Marathon events. Please keep all those affected that day in your thoughts as we join together in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star Spangled Banner. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to take a momentary break while the chorus comes in. And then we'll
Please join us in singing the song.
What so proudly we
Strong Tuesday.
Nothing better than hearing that every morning, I'll tell you. So tonight's presentation started with a typical start to our day. You're also going to see a couple of musical presentations that we have children from every grade represented. And we're going to have a community outreach and I'm drawing a and a community service presentation as well. For the school committee, I left a program on your table in front of where you were sitting. I also gave you a copy of the program from the all-town concert, the chorus and the band concerts. And if you have a minute, just kind of browse through those booklets. You will be very, very impressed with the number of children in North Reading involved in music in some capacity. It is a fabulous program, and it all begins at the elementary level. And so tonight you will see a small representation of what we do here at the little school. We have an arts night coming up in May, so you're invited back if you enjoyed tonight's presentation. The arts are alive and well in North Reading, and we should all be very proud about that. Let's see. With that being said, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to our teacher. He really does go above and beyond the school year when he's prepared and loves what he does. And he inspires and instills a love of music and performance into our students. So, that being said, let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start.
Let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. ABC, when you sing, you begin with do, re, mi. Do, re, mi. Do, re, mi. The first thing those just happen to be. Do, re,
Make sure you're in order. Multiple times during the year, the little school participates in community outreach programs that benefit the local community. Currently, we are collecting spare change for the Gathering Change initiative. This is a nonprofit organization that directly benefits the North Reading Food Pantry. As part of this campaign, we have asked the children of the little school to do chores at home, clean out the couch cushions, and maybe back in the car in order to find stray coins. You may think it's small change, but together we can make a big difference.
I didn't know that 170 families in North Reading rely on the food pantry every month. I didn't know that 170 families in North Reading rely on the food pantry every month. I didn't know that 181 children in North Reading would not have enough food to eat if it weren't for the food pantry. I didn't know that 37 senior citizens go to the food pantry every month. I didn't know that the North Reading Food Pantry gave out 156,000 pounds of food in 2013. I didn't know that every dollar donated to the food pantry can buy $4 worth of food from the Greater Boston Bank. I didn't know that some food pantries supply clothing, school supplies, and Christmas gifts. I didn't know, now I do. What is in your wallet? A container of milk? A loaf of bread.
Thank you. Kevin? We now have Kevin Chang on the saxophone. As usual. So, April is Autism Awareness Month. And tonight we are very fortunate to have a keynote speaker who is here to talk to us about her personal experience with autism. A member of her family has autism, and Chloe Alexander, grade 3, is going to come down and she's going to read something that she wrote. Come down here, Chloe. Come on down here.
Hello, my name is Chloe Ann Alexander. I'm going to talk with you about autism. My sister Kimberly has autism. She is here tonight. Her brain works differently than others. Sometimes she does things that kids her age would normally do, but that's okay, since we all do things differently from each other. Autism is not something you can catch. You're born with it. Kids with autism have sensitive senses. They may feel, hear, or taste things more intensely than others. For example, a loud noise that may not bother us, like a lawnmower or a barking dog, may hurt or frighten them. Kids with autism may also have a hard time talking to you or finding the right words to say. They may not understand everything you say or repeat things. You can be a good friend to your friend with autism by helping them. If they are stuck in a conversation, you could suggest some words for them. If they are not playing with anyone, they may not understand the game. If you could try to help them understand or play something that they like. I hope you learned a little bit about autism and how to better understand people who are different from you, and how to be a helpful friend to someone with autism. I have something for all of you. I hope you will wear it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. You did a great job. boys and girls. Once again, you made us proud. And thank you again, Mr. Tatro. I just want to take a moment to thank staff members that are here, and there are many here at the back. The school would not be what it is without the close-knit faculty that we have at the school, faculty and staff, paraprofessionals, teachers, specialists, everybody coming together to do what's right for kids. And it is a wonderful place to come to work every day, and even a better place for kids to come and learn every day. So I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I know it's been a long day and you came out on your own time to be here. It means so much to me. Thank you very, very much. That concludes our evening tonight as far as the performance for the children. And hold on.
I just want to say two things. That was outstanding. NBC had a live Sound of Music on about 3 or 4 months ago. That was better. And the second thing is, the most important thing I heard tonight was, I know you love the little school, but was it's the 136th day of the school year, which means what? There's only 44 days left. So thank you very much. That was great, Ms. Tatro, Ms. Motley, the staff, and the students.
We should take a brief intermission while we get them off the stage. And thank you again. Thank you everybody for coming.
That was a wonderful performance by the little school students and staff. That was awesome. And now let's get back to the mundane, our regular order of business. And at this time, we will have an update on the school building project. Catherine?
Thank you. The last secondary school building committee meeting was held on April 8th. In terms of a construction update, the gym floor will be installed in mid-June. Main Street interior windows have been installed. They're starting to finish the installation of the ceiling grid. The middle school brick wall that's exposed on Main Street will be refinished soon. And the VCT tiling in the classrooms has begun, and the color patterns are on the floor, and they're taking shape. I just want to reiterate that the access road to the high school at Route 62 will be closed at the start of the April vacation so that intersection work can commence. The road will remain closed until September. Under the design update, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment went out to bid at the end of February. The bids were received in March on the items as specified. A number of samples were requested from vendors who proposed as equal items. Once we received those, the administrators reviewed the samples for quality, durability, and appearance and made some decisions. The designers then met with the curriculum leaders to review their lists again, and they affirmed the items as specified. A list of repurposed items currently in the schools was developed. Student furniture from 10 classrooms and all of the middle school cafeteria tables will be reused. The MSBA approved a budget for our furniture, fixtures, and equipment at $1,644,000 based on a figure of $1,200 per student. This per pupil cost has been the same for the last 10 years. The current bid total for the FF&E is $1,963,756, representing a figure of approximately $1,500 per student. The central office furniture was not part of the bid process, but the cost estimate for this bid is $108,000. Other small miscellaneous FF&E not yet bid totals equals $37,512, for a grand total of $109,268 needed for FF&E. So the current budget gap between what the MSBA allots and what the current bid totals is $465,268. At the last meeting, the SSBC voted 16-0 to expend the MSBA-approved amount so that purchase orders can be issued. At the next SSBC meeting, the designers will present a detailed explanation of the items that are included in the additional $465,268 needed to fully fund the FF&E bid. Invoices were also approved, and an expenditures to date report prepared by Mr. Phil Dardino was reviewed. This report also detailed the disbursement of funds by the MSBA to the town. We did have 2 abutters attend the meeting to address their concerns, and then the next regular meeting of the SSBC is scheduled for tomorrow night, Tuesday, April 29th, in the Modular High School cafeteria. Begins at 5:30.
Tomorrow?
You said tomorrow night.
I'm sorry.
Next.
Next, Tuesday night, April 29th. It's usually tomorrow night.
Any questions, comments? I just wanted to comment on that furniture fixtures expenditure line item. As Kathy mentioned, the state has had a $1,200 per pupil amount, fixed amount for those items for at least 10 years. And they haven't adjusted it. And according to research that's been done and according to the professionals on the project, most schools are coming in between $1,600 and $1,800 now for that kind of equipment. So, we're doing our best. We have it at $1,500 right now, and there really isn't much. We've already cut $60,000 off of cut
Yes.
by $60,000 what we're going to spend on these items. So, as I say, we're doing the best we can to cut that amount, but at this point, there isn't much more cutting to do there. Any other questions or comments on the school? I did chuckle along with Jerry when you mentioned color pattern, but we won't go into that right now. There'll be a color pattern when the furniture gets into the school, I believe. So we'll be all good.
It's all good.
All good.
No comment.
Okay, next we have a update on the budget for the next fiscal year. Michael?
Thank you. At last Monday night, on April 7th, we had our annual public hearing on the FY15 budget, and since that time, the Administrative Council has had an opportunity to meet and debrief and review some of the comments that were made during the budget hearing. We also held another meeting with the Finance Planning team, and as discussed at the public hearing on April 7th, we continue to meet with the Finance Planning team and review all available revenues and make any necessary revisions as we get the most up-to-date information with the Finance Planning team. So we discussed that certainly continues to be a very fluid process, and at the April 10th Finance Planning team meeting, we actually identified some additional funds while working with the Finance Planning team that would allow us to actually add about $40,000 to our budget request. And as you may recall, as we discussed at the April 7th public hearing, as we moved through the budget process, certainly finding the funds to fund that digital learning coordinator position is certainly a high priority by the administrative team. And we certainly feel and like to recommend and discuss this evening that with the additional $40,000 of revenue that has been identified, that position be a priority for restoration back into our fiscal year 15 budget.
Yeah, just to make it clear, so that would pull out the digital learning
Correct.
specialist that we were
Correct.
going to hire instead of the coordinator, and now we'd hire the coordinator. And I do want to add that this all took place at the Finance Planning team, and it was not initiated by the school department or the school committee. It was Selectman Sean Delaney expressed concern about us moving into one new building next year and a second new building that's going to be loaded with technology, and us not having a digital learning coordinator in the school system with all that technology that's going to be at that school. So I really appreciate the effort by Sean, Liz Paveo, the town finance director, Bob Masseri, Greg Valiakonis, they're all working together to get us that additional funding so we can hire the digital learning coordinator.
Correct. Some of the other updates that we want to discuss this evening. So the Administrative Council continued to meet and try to discuss creative ways and alternative funding strategies to address the class sizes at the high school, given the additional enrollment that will be entering the high school next year. So after much deliberation, the Administrative Council did identify ways that would shift current teaching assignments of several faculty members to provide between 3 and 4 sections of teaching assignments to alleviate the high school class sizes. That would certainly, these additional sections would be identified in specific courses that would help control and maintain class sizes next year at the high school. So this was, certainly, some creative ways that the Administrative Council met to review, and this would be a cost-neutral, no-cost, option into the FY15 budget. But certainly at the public hearing, that was certainly a concern that was raised, and the administrative team really discussed in detail, how we could find creative ways in a cost-neutral way to alleviate some of the high school class sizes at the high school. So we certainly felt good coming out of that meeting that we would be able to do that and pick up about 3 or 4 sections in certain identified courses at the high school next year.
Kathy, do you want to explain by 3 or 4 sections what exactly that means? Because I think it's important that especially the high school parents understand the effort we're making here to try to accommodate the increase in students next year.
Sure, thank you. When we talk about the high school and hiring staff, when the high school principal requests a 1.0 full-time equivalent teacher in the humanities, we're not talking about hiring one person. We're talking about hiring a person that may have more than one license to be able to teach in more than one content area. So for the humanities, it may be someone with an English language arts license as well as a social studies license. And when we talk about the equivalent of a 1.0 FTE, we're talking about 5 sections. And so the one-person hire is equivalent to teaching 5 courses. That's a section. So what Mr. Bernard's original request was for 9 sections of a teacher, equating to approximately 1.8 teachers. And he was asking for those teachers to be in the area of humanities and foreign language. So what Mike O'Connelly just explained to you was, after about 3 hours of deliberation the day after the budget hearing, we really started to click with our creative thinking around taking a look at the licenses some of our current educators have and what they are teaching, and thinking about how can we maximize their licenses to pick up some additional coursework at the high school, as well as take a look at some teachers that are teaching across the district, that they may have district positions, and they may be able to pick up 1 section or 2 sections in the high school to alleviate some of the stress of the increased class size, with the outcome being that there will be no electives cut at the high school for next year. That is the intended outcome. Right. But we can do this for 1 year, and as I've mentioned in the past, we need to seriously consider adding additional FTEs to the high school budget, starting with the FY16 budget.
And I know it's early, but I'm hearing really tiny numbers in terms of 8th graders moving to other schools next year. I know it's still early in the process, but I think there's no doubt we're going to have to look seriously at the staffing at the high school for the fiscal 16 budget. This will get us through on 1 year.
This will get us through, but I want to applaud the work of the Administrative Council, putting their heads together and trying to take a look at how do we maximize the resources that we currently have in order to best meet the needs of our students.
Any other questions or comments on the budget? So we'll be voting on this on the 28th, correct?
That's correct. So I handed out a supplemental handout this evening on the FY15 budget that goes over some of the changes that we just discussed, and actually shows you what our revised budget number is. So based on the additional revenue that was identified and the change in adding that digital learning coordinator position, we would now be looking at an FY15 total budget request of $26,764,015. and that is a 4.4% increase, or a a little over $1.1 million increase over our FY14 appropriation. So, the budget is still scheduled to be voted at the next meeting on April 28th, but this essentially is our current FY15 budget.
I also just want to point out that that meeting on the 28th will be held in the large group room at the middle school, because there's a conflict with the selectmen that night. We'll be meeting in their offices. So I think we can broadcast live from the large group room at the middle school, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget at this time? Thanks, Michael. Next, update on the Pupil Personnel Services Director search. Kathy?
Yes, thank you. As you know, this year we have an interim Director of Pupil Personnel Services, Dr. Valerie Artie Flynn, who is serving the North Reading Public School District for this particular year, because we had an unsuccessful search to fill this position last year. So the North Reading School District initiated a search to fill the position of Director of Pupil Personnel Services in February of this year. We received 27 applications, of which 12 were appropriately credentialed. The screening committee reviewed these applications and identified 4 candidates for interviews. The interview committee conducted interviews during the last week of March and moved 1 candidate ahead as a finalist. The Administrative Council met with that candidate on April 2nd, and as a result of our debriefing that followed this meeting, we collectively decided to reopen the search. Simultaneously, Dr. Valerie Artie Flynn and I are requesting a second-year waiver from the Department of Ed so that Dr. Flynn is able to continue in her interim director role for another school year. I am hopeful that a second-year waiver will be granted so that Dr. Flynn can continue to work with us and lead the pupil personnel services for the district. If this waiver is granted, then the posting of the position will be withdrawn. So I will keep you updated on the progress that we are making on this position. Mr. Webster sat as a representative of the school committee on the interview committee. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add,
I
Mr.
just want to
Webster.
say it was a thorough vetting of the 4 finalists, the semifinalists that we had brought in. And unfortunately, the candidate that was put forward at this time, was not deemed ready for the position. A good candidate, but just the experience was an issue. I would prefer that we could get the waiver from the state. We've made an honest effort to fill this position and have struck out 2 times. And I think keeping Dr. Flynn here for another year while we conduct another search is our best option. I don't know if any other committee members have any comment. Jerry?
We might have to go worldwide on this one.
We've pretty much gone worldwide.
Now we've gone nationwide in the past.
Nationwide.
It's a critical position for the district,
Yes.
as you all know, and we are also moving through a coordinated program review by the Department of Ed this year and next year. So not only is Dr. Flynn trying to deal with the day-to-day operations that go along with this position, but she's also conducting an extensive internal review of all policies, programs, and procedures within the special ed department to be reviewed by the Department of Education. And all of those materials need to be submitted this May, and the site visit by the Department of Ed will take place next fall.
Which I think makes a really good case for her to come back next year.
And she's committed to staying for another year.
She has, as long as we can get the waiver from the Department of Ed. So I'm very hopeful. I've outlined all of the information that I've shared with you tonight for the Department of Ed, and I'm hoping that they will grant that waiver.
I think we've found in the past that the time dimension is an important one, not just a worldwide search, but
Right.
the right timing.
Yeah.
And that you really need to have the right person, not a person. in that position.
This seems to become a very difficult position to fill across the state.
Well, I can tell you that there are several surrounding districts that are conducting these searches at the same time as we are. And as a matter of fact, one of the candidates that we interviewed was hired the day after her interview by a neighboring district.
Right.
So there's lots of competition for these positions currently, very close to North Reading.
Right. Okay. Any questions, comments? So you'll keep us updated on that.
I will.
How long do you expect before we hear back from the state on the waiver?
Well, it depends. Sometimes you hear very quickly, and other times you don't hear as fast as you would like. I'm hoping that we'll know pretty much by the end of May.
Okay.
But we have reposted the position on School Spring, so if anyone is interested, please apply.
Okay. At this time, we'll move to, I believe we're down to minutes, right? Routine matters. We have minutes for executive session, February 10th, 2014. I reviewed these. I saw no items, no issues with them, so I
Move to accept the minutes of executive session of February 10th.
motion by Cliff, second by Janine. Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Then we also have executive session minutes from March 10th, 2014. Again, I reviewed, all the minutes tonight I reviewed, and there were no issues. So again, no issues with these.
Move to accept the executive session minutes of March 10th.
Motion by Cliff, second by Janine. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Then we have the regular meeting on March 10th, 2014.
Move to accept the regular meeting minutes of March 10th.
Motion by Cliff, second by Janine. Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Then we have executive session from March 24th, 2014.
Move to accept the executive session minutes of March 24th, 2014.
Motion by Cliff, second by Janine. Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? 4-0. And finally, the regular meeting on March 24th, 2014.
Move to accept the regular meeting minutes of March 24th, 2014.
Second.
Motion by Cliff, second by Jerry. Further discussion?
I want to get on the board.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Thank you. Michael, budget update for the current budget.
So the FY14 April budget update was included in your packet. And starting with on the expense side of things, we certainly remain within budgeted line items. There are 4 main highlights I'll touch upon this evening in the report. We've discussed special education costs and the extra costs that have arisen this year that we've been able to certainly deal with through additional revenue that we received this fiscal year. So there will certainly be a need to monitor these costs as we move through the final quarter of this fiscal year. We certainly have experienced a very cold winter season, so our energy costs this year have been higher than typical, but they still remain within budgeted lines. The attached report shows you our latest projections of where we think we're going to be in terms of our electricity and gas costs for the remaining of this fiscal year. So as you can see, due to conservative budgeting and solid energy management, we do expect to have some funds to repurpose elsewhere in this area, which has been the case in prior years as well. We discussed homeless transportation costs and the need of additional costs that has arisen this year, given to address the student needs and our state mandates in this area. So this current line item is reflecting a deficit. The fourth highlight I'll reference on the expense side of the report is the need to certainly pay close attention to the food service program. So the current report before you this evening does reflect what I think currently will be the need to subsidize the program this year to keep the program certainly in the black. I will say I got the March report earlier this week, and total meal counts were up in the month of March from last year, so it does look like things are starting to trend in the right direction. Sales revenue and reimbursement revenue is a little bit higher, indicating higher participation when compared to last year. But certainly there'll be a need to subsidize the program as we anticipated this year with additional general fund dollars, and the report reflects this additional need to subsidize the food service program. On the payroll side, again, the major payroll line items will be very close to budgeted lines. There's about 4 areas I'll highlight this evening as well. Certainly, our daily substitute costs and the need to hire long-term substitutes has been a little bit less this year, so we are projecting a surplus in the substitute budget. Because of teacher attrition and some leave of absences, we are projecting, a surplus in the teacher salary line. We discussed the differential line and the fact that there's been additional staff taking in-service professional development credits beyond what we anticipated during the budget season last year. So we are projecting a deficit in the differential line. In the administrative line, due to the need to appoint a long-term sub in the assistant PPS director position, that line is currently reflecting a deficit. But all major payroll lines are still within budgeted line items. So at this point, I'll turn it over to any questions on the report.
The only question I have, and this is actually be for the next meeting, if we could put on the agenda what we had discussed at the athletic subcommittee, which was to look at additional coaches for the fall with the large number of students coming in. And Michael, one of the things we were hoping to be able to do, I think, Jerry, is to take that money out of, as much of that money as we can out of the revolving fund. Given that we expect 40 more students at the high school and expecting probably 25 to 30% of them to be playing sports in the fall, because we had a problem this year with soccer, especially we didn't have enough coaches. We had 74 boys playing soccer and 57 or 56 girls, and we just didn't have enough coaches. So I'd like to put that on the agenda for the next meeting if we could. And Michael, if you could look at scenarios where we'd be able to cover that under the revolving fund.
Yeah, I'm not sure how important it is that it comes out of the revolving fund. It's all
It's
the same
right.
thing, whether it comes out of the revolving fund or the appropriation.
Yeah.
But I think what we talked about was that with the additional students and the additional participation, the user fees would probably cover
That's
the
correct.
cost
Right.
of the two coaches.
That's what I meant, yeah.
So that's,
Okay,
I think,
I can look at that. I can run some projections. I'll follow up with Dave Johnson.
And I
and
think
his
at some
feedback.
point, we can't hire them all at once, but we're going to have to look at some of our other sports too. Boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse has fairly low numbers this year, but boys lacrosse I know is one. The numbers in track are unbelievable. We have 74 boys and 57 or 56 girls doing spring track. So I know track you can have fewer coaches, but if you want a track coach that's training kids to do pole vault, then that coach has to focus on pole vault. And so I think as we get this influx of kids, where we may have 840 kids in a couple of years, we have to look at more coaches.
yeah, I know our athletic director and our principal both don't want to see kids cut from teams. They want to see as much participation as possible. So again, I think the additional number of participants should cover the cost of the additional coaches.
Right. So if we put that on the next agenda.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from Michael? I saw this report too.
Right.
Okay.
So the last final piece I'll comment on tonight during the budget update is including in this evening was the agreed upon procedure audit report on our end of year financial report. And this is an annual requirement to have our end of year financial report audited. It's required to be done so before March and sent to Department of Elementary Education to indicate that your end of year financial report has been reviewed and audited. And just so everyone understands, the end of the year financial report is essentially a huge task. And it's a requirement to report to the DESE on an annual basis all revenue and expenses that the school department receives in a fiscal year. And that's not only in the general fund, but it's also in any revolving grant, federal or state grant, gift account revenue and expenses. So that report at the end of each fiscal year is due to the Department of Education by September 30th, and then it does need to be audited annually by an independent audit firm. And this report is the auditor's report indicating that the audit has been done, the report has been completed, and all the necessary procedures have been followed and sent to the Department of Education. So it's certainly the end of the year financial report, I will say, is extremely important function of certainly of my position, and it's extremely important that that data be done correctly and accurately as well as timely. It does feed a lot of the information that we are now able to gather on the Department of Elementary Education's website. And certainly the per pupil data is all derived from information that is recorded and sent annually on this end of the year financial report. So I did meet with our auditors and reviewed the report thoroughly. He was certainly very pleased with the report this year, noting that certainly everything was done correctly. There was very little issues were noted. The two that were noted, he did make it clear that certainly amendments have been filed and processed to the Department of Education. So I think overall it was a very good report, and I guess I'll open up to any questions at this point in time.
Questions? Good job, Michael.
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have subcommittee updates. Finance planning team, I pretty much gave the main update, which was to secure additional funding for the digital learning coordinator. Both the town and the school side budgets are balanced going into town meeting in June. Kathy?
And we met with the Finance Committee?
Oh, right. We met on Thursday night, we met with the Finance Committee, and Michael presented our budget, they asked questions, and they seemed fine with, I didn't see any problems.
No, it seemed-
Good questions, but the one other thing on the budget is, not on the budget, but the town did authorize an additional $18 million in bonding for the school project, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
At a very favorable, I don't know exactly, 3.5% interest
Yeah, a little
rate.
over 3.5%, just slightly higher than the last time they went out, but very similar.
Yeah, 3.5.
I believe, I don't
yeah.
have the number in front of me, but it's about 3.5%.
Okay. Other subcommittee updates. We had athletic subcommittee. Jerry?
The athletic subcommittee continues to keep the building project as a recurring agenda item on our monthly, or every other month meetings. What we're trying to do is make sure that all the little things from the athletic side of the building project are what we're looking to accomplish in the project. So as the project starts to be completed, we're taking a look at everything. Some of the things, for example, we're looking at the lines on the gym floor to see how they fit with all the various competition court, the divided courts, the volleyball courts, et cetera, to make sure that the floor is not overcrowded with lines and they're not misleading or confusing. So we're working on that. Dave Johnson, our athletic director, and John Bernard, the high school principal, is staying focused on that. We're looking at things, for instance, the placing of display cases inside Main Street by the gym area. Chuck Marucci, as chairman of our secondary school building committee, was at our subcommittee meeting. And, you know, one of the things that Chuck's involved with, he's involved with many things, but one of the things is the Hall of Fame committee. So he wants a display space for the Hall of Fame trophies and plaques, and that's going to be paid for by the Hall of Fame committee. So we're trying to stay on top of everything.
Scoreboards.
The scoreboards, we wanted to make sure that the scoreboard placement was where we anticipated it was going to be. What else, Mel? Just as we go along, we're just trying to make sure, double check to make sure everything's the way we envision it.
I think those are the main things we focused on. We also looked at participation numbers for the fall.
Well, that was the next
For the
thing,
spring,
yeah.
I should say.
Yeah, participation numbers were very good. There were in excess of 300 students playing interscholastic sports, which is consistent with basically the fall and the winter statistics. I think it's 40% or 42% of all the kids are playing a sport. As Mel suggested, there were some big numbers in some areas. We talked about if you've noticed it, as you've driven by the high school, there's been some digging going on in the turf field at both end zones. And the purpose of that is to put up permanent nets behind basically the goals, the soccer goals, the lacrosse goals, et cetera. You may remember that we had some temporaries that we used on posts that were out there, and it didn't work out. Those nets kept falling over. So these are going to be permanently embedded in the ground. I think the project should be done this week sometime.
Yeah.
That's the
And I think it'll be a huge improvement. It's a safety factor. You know, you've got balls flying all over the place and kids running on the track, et cetera. And we also talked, Mel's already hit upon it, possibly funding some coaching positions for next fall because of the increased numbers that we've seen in some of the sports, in particular, I think it was boys soccer.
Yeah.
And a couple of other sports that we're watching closely. And again, hopeful that the number of user fees would cover the increased costs for these coaches.
Those nets are going to be, I believe, 30 feet high, and they span almost, they don't span the width of the football field, but pretty much.
And again, it's a collaborative effort.
Right.
Recreation's paying some of the cost of this, the school department's paying some of the cost, we're reaching into, I think, the revolving fund.
Revolving funds.
We're trying to get this down.
Rental
to
funds.
support.
Yeah. Any questions for Jerry on athletic subcommittee? I think those are the only two we had, correct? Yeah. And we've got policy subcommittee on April 30th, finance planning team May 9th, athletic subcommittee May 13th, and evaluation subcommittee May 16th. Kathy, anything administrative report or correspondence?
No, just a reminder that you'll be collecting the school committee self-evaluation forms at the next school committee meeting.
Right. I have Cliff's and I have Karen's.
You lost those.
You'll have to see them. You'll have to go to the superintendent's office for a one-on-one meeting with her to get another form.
You get
Sorry.
I didn't say I lost it, I said what if somebody.
Oh, what if someone lost it? Okay. Yeah, and detention.
All right, I gotta get one of those.
I did you have anything else?
No.
Oh, because I did want to raise one item. I'm actually going to pass this out. This was something the Peabody School Committee took a vote at their last meeting, and I just wanted to raise it, see if we had any interest in either taking a similar vote or in taking a vote to send a similar letter or taking a vote to support the Peabody School Committee. I'm going to read what this says. The following correspondence shall be sent to Governor Valpatrick, Mitchell Chester, the Attorney General, Board of Education, and the State Ethics Commission. We believe the decision of whether to abandon MCAS, a test which is a fundamental element of the 1993 Ed Reform Act that has led to the unprecedented improvement in student achievement in Massachusetts in favor of PARC, a test which may hold promise but is as yet unproven and theoretical, is one of critical importance. We believe also that this monumental decision demands objectivity, fairness, and the impartial scrutiny of empirical data to determine the outcome. We believe that Mitchell Chester, by virtue of his role as national chair of the PARC Governing Board and other actions, represents a serious breach of trust, which is at odds with the primary duties and responsibilities, and at the very least gives the impression of bias towards PARC and compromises the decision-making process. Therefore, the Peabody School Committee, by unanimous vote, requests that you render an opinion on this matter. Mitchell Chester is our state education commissioner, and he also is the chair of the national chair of the PARC Governing Board, which is the test we're looking at. Now, as this has gone on during the week, he has been cleared of any conflict of interest but it's by the State Secretary of Education and by someone else on the Board of Education. So I just wanted to raise this, make people aware of it. I don't know if there's any interest here in us sending the same sort of letter. It does appear that he has been cleared of any conflict because there's no monetary value or he has no monetary interest in this.
The most recent correspondence on that, though, is raised the question of future positions that he might hold
right.
in companies which may be a beneficiary of this kind of testing going into this particular test going in on a national basis. And therefore, while not a firm conflict of interest, it certainly raises a question as an appearance issue. And there's been quite a little bit of activity on that in the last day or so.
Yeah. You know, I think the other side of that coin is, and I'm not making a judgment one way or the other, is that, you know, as the chairman of the national chair of the PARC Governing Board, that he may genuinely feel that this is the way to go too. I mean, you know, that's a possibility. That there's no ulterior motive, but his familiarity with this particular, you know.
But there are two tests. I guess that's the issue.
Yeah.
There were two tests, and we're only seeing this one.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding that as other states have dropped out of the PARC test or have fewer kids taking it, more students in Massachusetts have been asked to take this test than in other states. So I hear you. I'm not rendering a judgment either. I think that looking to get an opinion on the matter is something that, you know, that I would support. But if this committee, I'm not asking for any action by the committee, but if the committee was interested in maybe endorsing Peabody's intention or their letter, or writing a letter of our own, I would be fine with that also. So I just wanted to put it on the table.
I guess my feeling is that initially, as I read Peabody's and found out more about what was going on, I got the distinct feeling that we ought to jump on board with it, as many other districts perhaps should, and raise the red flag on it. Unfortunately, this looks like one of those cases where no matter how much you put up as noise, it's going to be ignored.
Right.
Because the powers that be are going to barge ahead with it no matter what.
Right.
I saw the video where it was presented by Dave Magini.
Yep.
At the Peabody School Committee meeting, and the plea was pretty coherent. I guess I'm torn with whether we stand up on the platform and raise a continuing stink on it, or whether we're not.
And I'm not asking for it tonight. I think it's something we can consider, and if we want to do something, we can do it at the next meeting. So I just wanted to put that
Yeah, I mean,
on
if
the
we're
table.
going to even consider it, I'd like people to at least come up with some rational
Right.
reason why
Right.
we're opposed to the testing, and not just because the,
I guess it's
Director
more
of
opposed to
Education.
replacing MCAS.
Right, exactly. That's, I'd like to stand on
Right.
that. I don't necessarily like the tone of this letter. I
Yeah.
don't think you have to accuse somebody of something.
Right.
Because you don't agree with them, so.
So again, I just wanted to bring that up and we can, if we want to discuss it at our next meeting, we can. I thought it was an important issue. There's been a lot of discussion about it. Parents have been involved in the park discussion, administrators, teachers, so.
There's
I
a lot
just
of
wanted to-
merits.
Yeah.
From the discussion we had at our last meeting with Patrick Daly as we were getting ready for park, I think the next day, I got the distinct feeling that this is a test that's asking to use future technology for kids to take tests today. And that really, perhaps the time is not anywhere near right. for
Well,
that
I think
testing.
that's the problem that most districts are going to have, is when if this test is implemented and it's by computer, most districts aren't going to have the technology to meet their requirement. And some of the districts like Burlington and others will have it, but
I think Patrick said we don't.
we don't have it. We had to move computers around from the
don't have
middle
it.
school to the elementary schools in order for those students to take the tests.
And you had to have all of those computers in sync and
Right.
functioning right the whole way through the test.
Exactly.
And there's just too many things in the air at the same time to have them all come down right.
Right. So anyway, I brought it up for consideration. In the meantime, I'll keep watch. We'll keep watch to see if anything does happen with this. And if we want to discuss it at our next meeting, if Kathy, you can put that on the agenda.
I will.
We don't have to discuss it, but at least put it on the agenda so we have that option.
I will.
Okay. Anything else? At this point then, I will entertain a motion for a brief executive session to discuss collective bargaining.
Make a motion to.
Oh, and to come back into
Regular
public
session for the purpose of adjournment.
adjourn, right. Motion by Jerry, can I have a second? Janine? Yeah. Cliff? Jerry?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.